Broadcasting from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota. This is The Gailey Show. I am your host, JP Darabogossian. We are your answer to the question, what is a queer thing I can read, watch, or go to in the Twin Cities and beyond? And also, we like to support queer creatives on this show. And so last year was not a white Christmas in Minnesota. We barely got any snow, but we are going to be a white Christmas this year because opening at Chanhassen Dinner Theaters this weekend is White Christmas, and one of the stars of the show, Tony Vierling, joins me here in our virtual studio. So Tony, welcome to The Gailey Show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So for the folks who haven't seen White Christmas, tell us a little bit about what the show is about.
Well, it's based on the 1954 movie starring Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye. And it's about two guys who were in the Army, and they become showbiz legendy, a team, a performing team. And they go off to this inn in Vermont where they find their old general from the Army is running the inn. The inn is not doing well, so they decide to bring up all their show folk and put on a show and try and save the inn. And so I play the Danny Kaye role. And then, of course, they meet a couple of sisters along the way who are also performers. They fall in love. Boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl. Everyone's happy at the end. The snow falls. It's a beautiful white Christmas.
It really is. I have to say or admit that for years I've always caught parts of White Christmas on TV, obviously, every December. And last year I said, I'm finally watching this from start to finish. And I did not realize how many of the amazing Christmas carols, I guess, or Christmas songs that we associate with the holiday season are from this film.
Yeah, especially the classic I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas. I mean, the Bing Crosby classic. I think it's the most recorded song in the history of music. So that's what we were told on the first day of rehearsal. So, it's a big one. And then, things like Happy Holidays, I've Got My Love to Keep Me Warm, Count Your Blessings. I mean, they're all just like, it's classic.
It's a fantastic show. Show. And so tell us, what has it been like? Is this your first time doing White Christmas?
It's my second time to be in the show, but it's my first time in this role.
All right.
Michael, my husband, who's playing the Bing Crosby role, he's done the show 5 times. And he was part of the original, when it was developed in New York and taken to Boston, he was in that original company, and he played my part. And then he moved into the Bing Crosby role, and he's done that all over the country. And I was in the ensemble of one of those shows with him in Houston, Texas. But this is my first time in this part, and it's the first time ever at Chanhassen. It's a premiere for Chanhassen.
Oh, wow, that's right. They were telling me about that. So how have you found doing the role?
It's very challenging because my role does a lot of dancing. A lot of tap dancing, some ballroom dance, a lot of partnering. And I've also been in the Carole King musical at night and then rehearsing during the day. So we've been working from 10 to 5:30 during the day and then doing 8 shows a week at night.
Wow.
So to put that much physical activity has been exhausting and exhilarating because my partner, Andrea Mislin, is stunning. She was from the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. She danced with Celine Dion in Vegas for 6 years. She's unbelievably beautiful dancer. So that has been so fun to dance with her. But I'm tired.
I bet you are. I have always harbored one day I hope to see a version of White Christmas where the Bing Crosby and the Danny Kaye roles, they're the ones that get together. But you have to completely rewrite the show to make that happen. But it would be like my secret desire to see that.
Well, we have a very funny, because, we play buddies. We have a very funny line in the show that I say. He comes up with the idea to bring the cast up and put on a show. And my line is, if you had better legs and some personality, I'd marry you. And We are married.
That's yes, you are. We've had your
So,
husband here on the
yeah,
show. Hey, maybe the characters are bisexual and they had a relationship beforehand, before
it's,
meeting the two lovely sisters. Maybe
well,
that's the way it could be.
whatever happened in the army stays in the army, I guess.
Right. Thank you for indulging me that. Tell me about. So we've had your husband on the show, and he was raving about how lovely Chanhassen has been for both of you and how inclusive it's been. But now we get to have you here. So tell us about your experience being an out actor working here in the Twin Cities.
Well, I moved to the Twin Cities in 1983, and I got my first job at Chanhassen in 1986. So
Wow.
for 38 years, I have worked there on and off. White Christmas is my 50th production there.
Oh wow! Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's an amazing place to work. They've been so supportive. There are a lot of couples that work there, husbands and wives, girlfriends and girlfriends, boyfriends and boyfriends. There's a lot of diversity within the artistic community that works there, and they're very, very, very supportive. They have a wonderful DEI council that's been developed over the years, and the
Oh,
inclusivity and the equality out there is they just don't have it written on paper. They actually put it into action, and that's been pretty fantastic to be a part of. And so we feel very welcome and very taken care of out there.
that's great. That's great. And how have you found it? So, I mean, the bulk of your career, I guess, has been at Chanhassen.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked quite a bit at the Guthrie and quite a bit at the Ordway, but yes, I would call Chanhassen my theatrical home.
Oh, wow.
And I've been fortunate enough to play a lot of nice song, and I'm kind of a song and dance guy. That's my thing. So I've gotten to play a lot of the song and dance roles, in the musical theater canon. And I'm just so fortunate. And also, I probably shouldn't say my age, but I'm older than most people think I am. And in the world at large, I probably would not get these opportunities anymore because of my age. But I keep myself in pretty good shape, and Chanhassen is so kind to indulge me.
Well, it is a gem, not only of the Twin Cities theater scene, but I think they're definitely a leader nationally as well for the company they create, how they run their theater, the shows that they do. So we're very lucky to have this theater here in the Twin Cities. And for folks who are listening who aren't in Minnesota, if you're in the Wisconsin, the Iowas, or beyond that, definitely consider taking a trip out here. Minnesota, normally in the winter, if we get some snow, is also delightful. But then
Yeah.
you can also check out White Christmas here. Are there, so this being the Gailey Show, I love
Mhm.
asking queer folks that come on, and I know this kind of puts people on the spot, but are there your favorite like LGBTQ plays or musicals that are recommendations that you would give to folks?
Oh my gosh.
I know
There
it's a huge question that puts you on the spot.
there aren't that many. There are probably more in recent years
Mm,
um,
hmm.
than there were in the past. In the past, I mean, in my career, I have never played a gay person in a musical ever.
Wow.
The closest I got was the prom a few years ago at Chanhassen, and
Yeah.
I I got it was insinuated when I made a cross. Someone made a look at me, and I kind of looked back, and that was an insinuation. I did a reading of a musical once at History Theater in St. Paul, and I did play a gay man in that show, and it was the first time I was actually able to access anything that actually is my person to put it into the character. Otherwise, I've pretty much just played heteronormative men or younger teenage boys. So there aren't, I can't even actually
Wow.
think of something other than like the
Wow.
prom
Yeah.
or Rent. Um,
Yeah.
but there aren't that many producers, but they kind of make fun of. A lot of
Yeah.
the problem is that it's usually the stereotype that they make fun of the gay person, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah. The canon hopefully is finally catching up to the
yeah, I think
times,
so.
as it were.
With Fun Home and
Hmm.
some of the other shows, they're a little more serious maybe but at least they're telling those stories.
Yeah. Yeah, I know
But
it's not. I mean, I guess I finally, finally made it to New York this year, and so my first music. I mean, I know of my age.
what?
Finally, I know. But I think I did a good job of waiting because the first musical I saw was a Stephen Sondheim musical, which was Merrily We Roll Along.
Oh,
So to have it be Stephen Sondheim and also having starring Jonathan Groff, I think I did a pretty good job of waiting.
brilliant! That was brilliant.
And I know that show per se isn't necessarily gay, but definitely has themes of chosen family in
Oh,
there
absolutely.
and challenging the idea of what friendship can be. And and also to see Jonathan Groff, I mean, a delight to see him
He's
having such a moment as well, being out
yeah,
and gay, and to see that and not being stuck in all of those, stereotypical roles.
yep.
I did also want to ask you, what are your favorite like Christmas shows that that you love to watch or to be in besides obviously White Christmas?
Well, believe it or not, we watch at our house. We watch White Christmas every single year.
I
Um,
love it.
we just love it. Um, and I love. I'm more of I really stick to the old classic musical
Hmm.
movies and things. So anything like It's a Wonderful Life, The Bishop's Wife, all of those old classic, just like, oh, they stab you in the heart and then they kind of heal you up a little bit. And so we watch all of those every year. Just
We
love them.
watch The Bishop's Wife every Christmas Eve in our
It's
household.
such a beautiful movie. It's
So
so,
beautiful.
yeah, I just love it.
And every year I see something new that I hadn't noticed before.
Hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
become this just absolutely. We watch in the afternoon, we watch Christmas in Connecticut, which is hilarious.
Again,
And then we
another,
watch,
Barbara Stanwyck is brilliant.
I know.
Brilliant. It's such a funny
The
movie.
oh, I'm blanking on the character's the actor's name, and actually the character's name right now who plays the chef. But his
Oh,
tagline of "Catastrophe," I
yeah.
say that a lot when I'm cooking in the
Uh,
kitchen.
yeah, that's a great movie. We love that's Michael, my husband, is extremely into old movies. So that tends to be what we watch is the older stuff. Yeah.
Right, yeah, right now, obviously being in October, we're going through all of the like classic Halloween films and horror
Yeah.
films. And
Yeah.
The Bishop's Wife is mandatory on Christmas Eve. And for me, The Bride of Frankenstein is mandatory
Oh.
for
For Halloween.
for Halloween. But
Yeah.
I've got about a minute left here. So tell us, how
Okay.
do people get tickets for White Christmas, which opens
You
this weekend, folks?
This Friday, you can go to Chanhassen Theater. Oh gosh, chanhassendt.com. I
.com.
think
Yeah.
chanhassendt.com. Or you can call the box office at 952-934-1525, and they will hook you up with the best tickets available. It's
And it runs for through January or
Yeah,
through
January
Christmas.
25th. So if it gets too crowded at the holidays and you can't get a ticket that you're is available on your schedule, come after the holidays and sort of extend your Christmas into January, which is I love to do because January can be kind of a dreary month. And
Yeah.
after Christmas is over, the excitement is gone and you can extend that a little bit.
Well, yes, absolutely. We'll leave it there for right now. Tony, thank you for being on The Gaily Show.
Thank you.
Okay, well, joining me now is a friend of the show, absolutely, Brett Edward Stout. Brett has a newest book, a newest novel, just came out this summer, Point and Shoot. And also, Brett has a background in politics, so I wanted to talk about what the heck is happening. So first, Brett, let's start with your novel, because this is The Gaily Show, and we like to celebrate all things culture and entertainment. So first of all, welcome to The Gaily Show. Tell us about your new novel.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be back on the show again. Yeah, I've got my third novel out now since we last spoke. It's a continuation of the series that I'm writing, A Gay Marine Story, which follows a young gay marine after he gets out of the military as he slowly fails to transition to civilian life. This series, which sounds very sad, is about this kind of a process of homelessness. And Brad as a character is like falling through these different kind of relationships. And in the latest book, I really wanted to harness this kind of unusual phenomenon that was going on in the late 90s and the early 2000s when, like the video stores were still a thing and we went out to actually purchase, like in person, our adult content. And for those of you who are listening who remember that, there was usually an entire section just devoted to amateur military adult content. And so, who are these people and what is this story? Because it's presented that these people are straight. And from the inside, as having served in the Marine Corps, I can tell you, yeah, a lot of them were straight men. So, how and why? And so, I try to crack that nut inside the book by having Brad go on a trip to the Big Island with the director and the two people that he's supposed to be there helping manage, which are two other Marines, to do a little bit of filming.
A little bit of filming. Well, you know what I love about your work is that you're giving us I don't know, it's inside perspective the right way, but you're giving us based off of your own lived experiences and your research, you're giving us insight into what it's like to have lived, through that specific time period, but also just to help us understand the military, army culture and perspectives as it relates to queer people. And so I think the work you're doing is just so original and so necessary. And thank you for doing it.
Thank you for having me on to having me talk about it. It's, you know, the whole impetus of writing the book series was this persistent question of what was it like to be gay in the Marines? What was it like to be a Marine? What was it like
Yeah.
to have been in the Marines? And so I really want to try to tackle that question to try to explain to people what it was like. And what I have found in the majority of fiction around the military is that there's a series of like events that you can kind of follow and like a context which is incredibly important and incredibly valid. But what I wanted to try to get into was explaining the on the ground reality of what it is like to be a Marine. And in order to do that, I need you to see this character's entire day back to back to start to see how being a Marine impacts all of the decisions and all of the interactions and the way that you wake up and the way that you come home and how you get into a car and whether or not you walk down the street and how you do or don't walk in step with people and just like all of these little nuances that just kind of get missed when you focus on a series of events. And I wanted to give more of an expose of a life instead. So the books are told in stream of consciousness so that you're with that character every waking second of the day for about a week in each book.
Yeah. And this is part of a larger series of novels. Do you want to talk about that? A Gay Marine story.
3 books so far. three three big books. I feel like because for so long a lot of sentiment around gay literature and gay fiction was that somehow it was all adult content, and by that I mean explicit content, and uh, that isn't really that's not the case with my books, even though I'm delving into this world where they are doing filming and you do see these scenes unfold. It was my publisher who said, these are the least salacious sex scenes I've ever read. And that is what I'm going for because I'm not trying to titillate. When you talk about
Hmm.
intimate content within fiction, it's so incredibly loud. It's so like it screams within the book. And so you have to really, really think about how is this putting the plot forward? How is this developing these characters? How is this developing something as it goes and not just being there for the sake of being salacious because that doesn't service anything about what I'm trying to express. I'm not trying to be salacious for the sake of salaciousness. Um, but I am trying to talk about the gay experience. I'm trying to talk about what does it mean to be a gay man? What did it mean to be a gay man and encounter things about like what we would now describe as being intersectional, things
Hmm.
about race, things about the mask femme issue, things about um, the over sexualization and desexualization of certain people based on certain characteristics, but without any of those modern vocabulary terms, without any of this modern conversation. It's not like we didn't experience those things,
Hmm.
but we didn't have the equipment to talk about it. And so there's a clumsy way that I'm hoping that I properly kind of harness that conversation within the books as I talk about age, race, gender, class, and sexuality, kind of like focusing on one through each of the books. So, like book one, focus very much on class, where you have this very wealthy guy, and then you have Brad, who's
Yeah.
literally missed his last paycheck, so he's literally penniless. And then you have this race issue within the second book where Brad is face to face with this guy who he doesn't even comprehend he is desexualizing for the fact that he is ethnically Japanese. And then you have sexuality where Brad is dealing with in book three, these two straight men. And those straight men are about to go on camera and do things that in some ways he would identify as being explicitly gay, but they are themselves not gay people doing those things. So if that's the case, what does it mean then to
Hmm.
be gay?
Yes. Well, I mean,
One at
thank
a time.
you. Thank you for doing that work. It's really important work. I do want to take a few minutes to talk about, because you have been involved with national organizing and politics on behalf of the queer community. So, what is your take on what's happening right now? We're less than 30 days out.
You know, it's such an interesting kind of situation. So I've been getting on to TikTok Live to do a lot of communicating
Hmm.
with people, and um, I think it's important that we kind of understand the conversation that we're trying to be had. There are, of course, people who just have kind of a religious viewpoint about their party, this tribalism that is
Hmm.
blind, and they're not going to say anything. But there is still a large number of people who are trying to come to a logical conclusion about who they're voting for. And so we have this confluence at this moment where we have an incredibly corrupted information pipeline, and we also have this long-standing uh, issue with allowing a single party to take ownership of patriotism, the flag, and the Constitution. And because of that, a lot of people are voting on those lines. The majority of people who are out there casting their vote aren't casting their vote on issues. And that's why when you see them getting asked questions about specific issues, that conversation is either self contradictory or is missing the information. It doesn't mean that they're not coming to some type of a logical conclusion, but the logical conclusion that they're coming to is that one side is Americans and the other side are not Americans. And if that's what you have been allowed to believe, that's an easy question for a lot of voters. You simply are going to vote American. So what do you do about that? And I'll tell you from listening to some people attempt to have this conversation on TikTok, what you don't do is start that conversation by telling people that they're an idiot and a disgrace, which is what is the primary modus of operandi that I see on uh, from the Democratic side. That's your opening volley, and it's like, how do you expect that conversation is going to go? And I'll tell you, just this month, I have 18 Trump supporters who have told me in DMs that they are now voting for Harris. So why is
Oh.
what I'm doing different than what other people are doing? And it's not because I'm magical or super persuasive. It's that I understand that this is an obstructed pipeline of information to these people. And so, for example, just today I was on, and the kind of like thing that I presented was this idea that they perhaps have a corrupted information pipeline, and of course they resist that idea.
Hmm.
And what I brought up to them to talk about specifics going on is I said, well, have you heard about what is going on with Mark Robinson? Does that name ring a bell to you? And their answer, so far, in all of the Trump lives that I've been in, and I've been in a lot of them now, is no. They've never heard of this person. And I said, this person is sharing the top of the ticket in one of the three most important swing states in this election. They are running for governor. Now, they have a scandal that when I start to tell you the specifics of is so outrageous. What you should question is, why haven't you heard anything about this? And that's what I mean by your information pipeline has been corrupted. There is people out there, there is an organization of people who are interested in withholding certain types of information from you. And I think if you have that same information that I have, that you will make some of those same conclusions logically in the end. And so that's
So how do folks follow you on TikTok? Because they've got about 30 seconds left here, and I want folks to be able to connect and see what you're saying. So how do they do that?
Brett E. Stout on TikTok or Instagram, Brett Edward Stout on Patreon. I'm not that hard to find. I am out there.
Well, thank you for doing these conversations because you're providing some insight here, and I know I kind of default to one area, and you're teaching me how I should just be starting to have those conversations. But Brett, thank you for being on the show today. You're a friend. Come back anytime.
Thank you very much, JP. Have a great day. Thanks for having me again.
And folks, thank you for tuning in today. We will see you back here next Saturday afternoon. Until then, vote.